8.6 in your notes. Writing linear equations. So far, what you've been doing is you've been given an equation and you've been graphing a line from that equation. We're going to do a bit of the opposite today. You're going to be given information such as you have an equation with a line that has a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of -5. You're being asked to write the equation for that line. So we're flipping it. All right, first of all, what is the slope-intercept equation? Y equals mx plus b. In this equation, what does m stand for, Abby?
Number next variable.
What's the m in this equation? Anybody? Preston?
It's the slope.
It's the slope. Yep, the m is the slope, and the b is the y-intercept. So now that we have our format for our equation, we just basically have to plug in what we know. We know that our slope is -2, so we're going to substitute -2 for the m in our equation. So y equals -2x plus our intercept is -5. Now we simply simplify -2x instead of plus a -5, we can just say -5. That's all you have to do. So today you're writing the equation. So you're not graphing a line today, no. Okay, so look at example 2. Writing an equation of a graph. Now, in this instance, we're not given what the slope is, but we are given a graph where we could find out what the slope is. How would you find out the slope from this graph? Whitney? The what? Rise over run. Remember, we could find the rise, and we could find the run simply by counting on our graph, couldn't we? So here we have, from our bottom point, we rise 1, 2. So there's my rise. And my run is to the right, 1, 2, 3. So there's my slope. Now remember, I've gone up, so it was positive, and then I went right, so it was negative. If I had to go positive, up is positive and to the right is positive. Now if I had to go left, it would be negative. Yes? If I had to go down, it would be negative. So the first thing we do is we find our slope, which we've done. I could also have used these 2 points, couldn't I, with the equation that we know? You could have found the slope that way too. So the next piece that we need is the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept there? 0, 2. My y-intercept is always going to be the point that has 0 in the x position, because remember, we're not going anywhere, we're going straight up the y-axis. So on the y-intercept, there will be a 0 in the y position, in the x position. Okay, so now we have the slope, we have the y-intercept, we simply write it in slope-intercept form. So y equals, my m is 2/3. I know an x goes there. My y-intercept is 0, 2. I use the 2 from that. And there's my equation. number 2. Find the slope first, because we're doing the same thing. Look at my directions. Write an equation. So this is what we're being asked to do. So we know we need to find the slope, we need the y-intercept. So using these points, I see that my slope is 1, 2, 3. That's my rise, and it's to the right 1. So there's my slope. The y-intercept. Now this one's a little bit hard to see because the graph doesn't extend, but I've extended it here so that you can see that it actually would have crossed at -2. Now, if I hadn't been able to tell where my y-intercept was, what my slope was, I could have used these points with this equation to find the slope. So once I have the slope, the y-intercept, I simply put it together in the slope-intercept form. Y equals 3x minus 2. Okay. What would be the equation of this line shown? First thing I would do is write the slope-intercept form. What's my slope? Colin?
Is it 3,
It's 1, 2. I've gone up 2, so there's my rise. But now look at what I've had to do. I go left 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be -3.
how'd you get a 2 on top?
Because from this point up to this point, I count up. So I'm even level with that point. So this is my rise. How much I rise up to be level with the next point. So from here I went up 1, 2. There's my rise. Then to get over, to run over to the point, to the next point, I had to go left 3, so that would be negative. Now, my y-intercept is 0, 3. It's always the point on the y-axis. So the equation that I would write, y equals -2/3 x plus 3. Okay. Now, you're going to find on your homework where you'll be asked to write an equation of the line through these given points. In this case, I can't count to find the slope, so you're going to have to use the formula. So you would use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm a big fan of labeling those points. I know this is an x and a y, this is the x, this is the y. I label my points, the 1s and the 2s. Now you simply fill in. My y2 is 9, minus y1 is 8, x2 is 1, x1 is 0. So my slope is 1 over 1. How can I tell which one of these points is the y-intercept?
The one that has 0 in it.
The one that has the 0 in the x position. So my slope is 1 over 1, or 1. My y-intercept is 3, or 8, I'm sorry. 0, 8. So the equation I would write would be y equals, I have 1x. Do I have to show that? You don't. You could, it wouldn't be wrong. X plus 8. Okay, you go ahead and do number 2. Figure out the slope, figure out the y-intercept, and then write the equation, and we'll see if you get it right. Good. Okay, you should have gotten for your slope 2/3. Did you get that? Because we had -3 minus -5. Don't forget, keep, change, change. Keep, change, change. So I have a +5 and a -3. That's a +2. 3 minus 0 is 3. My y-intercept is -5. So the equation I write is 2/3 x minus 5. Questions?